You're listening to DraftKings Network.
This is the Dan Batard Show with the Stugotz podcast.
Today's episode is sponsored by DraftKings. Stay tuned because you'll hear more about DraftKings and all it has to offer throughout the show. DraftKings, the crown is yours.
I mean, I don't know if you're too inside the weeds of basketball for too long to enjoy what I enjoyed specifically last night that doesn't come around very often, when more and more people are gathered around whatever the thing is, and then all of a sudden you realize that a whole lot of people watching and listening aren't aware of what I'm about to say, which is, we've all known for a long time that Pat Bev is an equal opportunity asshole. Like, you guys are just getting here. You just, he sprinkles, he has made his brand as an irritant on someone who gets people to his podcast as a average starting NBA player for 10 years, if indeed he's been a starter for however many of the years he's existed in the league. Him being mean to reporters is something that a lot of guys do, whether they're men or women. And more specifically, what I would say to you, him being at the forefront of, I don't want to give away my media for free, go to my podcast because that's where you will get my thoughts. Like, this is an interesting time for athletes to try and carve out their own space and be like, no, at this moment of great pain for me, I'm not just going to give away my pain for free. You got to subscribe to my YouTube channel in order to get it.
It also assumes people want to hear what you have to say.
Can I be the one who says it? Who cares? Who cares about this guy, man? This is the eighth man on a team that got mollywopped in the playoffs by a bunch of first-timers?
Oh, wait a minute, though. This is the Beverly brand, though. What do you mean, who cares? Beverly's entire brand is built on, I will make you care even though I'm just a middling player that you shouldn't care about. He's more famous than he should be because he makes people care about dumb shit.
His brand is, I'm not that good, and so I have to do other things to make people pay attention to me. And I'm not going to fall for the banana in the tailpipe, right? Like,
not going to fall for the banana in the tailpipe?
Yeah. That's my guy right there, File. No, this is the behavior of a clown. To say, I'm not going to answer a question because you don't subscribe to my shut up.
Also, sorry, how do you know? Just say, yes, I do. And then he's like, can I see your Apple pod or wherever you get your podcast?
Wherever you get your podcast.
Yeah, can I see your app wherever you listen to my podcast?
Greg Cody did this exact thing early in the week.
I need to go back for a second and just give people the context, and we'll get to this Knicks game. Are we going to get Stugotz today? Are you hunting for Stugotz to come?
I'm going to preemptively say no, Dan.
I'm hunting.
Lucy is also pessimistic.
I haven't seen him. I didn't see him at all in Detroit. I have not seen him in months. No, we were staying in the same hotel and I didn't see him.
That is another level of skill.
Chris Cody, what is the video that we have so that we, and I aired here and not giving people all of the context if they're not aware of what's happening with Patrick Beverly. It's not just that he snubbed a reporter last night. Milwaukee gets eliminated last night. Dame plays, but Milwaukee falls apart. Now that's an interesting and fun Knicks-Pacers series. I think the Pacers, I don't know how you guys feel, I do believe the Pacers can scare that Knicks team, but I am really enjoying the way people are falling in love with that Knicks team. I mean, this is not Larry Johnson and Latrell Sprewell. This is a team that out-rebounds Philadelphia all over the place, is doing it with a bunch of, like, underdog stuff, and it's a lovable basketball team.
Absolutely lovable. I don't know if you saw the post-game press conference with Donte DiVincenzo, Josh Hart, and Jalen Brunson, and it was every bit of, I could tell, like, if you were someone who did not like the Knicks, that press conference would infuriate you because Josh Hart is eating Mike and Ike's in the middle of it. They're doing little inside jokes.
Throwing them
another.
to reporters. Yeah. Mike and Ike's.
Mike and Ike's.
Yes, it's an underrated candy.
Very good.
He has his face on the box, right?
Is that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
He's
he
doing
was
promotions.
He was doing a thing. I was like, why is he going so vigorously at the mic? And as the reporter saying, Josh, this question is for you. He takes a handful of them. He starts chewing on them. So, well, and I'm like, why is he doing this? Why is he doing the Jessica Smetana? And it turns out because unlike Jessica Smetana, he's actually getting paid to do it.
Smetana.
Let me get to some of these things. First, let's go to Josh Hart because he did have a killer line. I don't know if this is the Mike and Ike's. And by the way, I will hear no slander on Mike and Ike's here just because I don't know what you're doing.
Yeah, they kind of suck.
I mean, it's better than good and plenty.
Go sit in the penalty box. Go sit in the penalty box for 2 minutes there. I just said I will hear no slander, and you can't say this kind of sucked. I will not tolerate that kind of disrespect in front of people. Privately, maybe.
Absolutely not.
Mike and Ike's are delicious. Put it on the poll, please, at Le Batard Show. Are Mike and Ike's underrated? But let's see here what it is that happened with Josh Hart. Is this the Mike and Ike's, or is this him trolling Philadelphia by making fun of their fans?
How's it feel being back in Philly, taking this place over?
I just talked, bro.
Okay.
Man, it felt great. We knew this was going to be a tough environment. A little tougher than last game because there was 2,500 seats that were taken up. But we knew it was going to be a battle. We knew it was going to be a grind.
That's good. It's good. I just want to say, this is the important thing about these post-game press conferences, particularly in the playoffs. A lot of times, people react to the quotes and react to the answers, but like the questions are truncated. That right there, the full question was, this dude, this is Journalism is Dead 101, right? This dude is like, Villanova's in the house. Villanova's in the house. How's it feel, boys, to be back in Philly? I'm like, what kind of question is this, dude?
Why did we take that out?
Because I tell you why, because unless you watch the full press conference, you probably did not know, which is what happens all the time because whenever ESPN or Turner or any of these outlets clip these interviews or these press conferences, they usually get just the last bit of a question because they're like, nobody cares about the question. We care about the answer by the athlete. And a lot of times the question informs a lot. For instance, a lot of times you're like, oh, why would so-and-so even bring that up? It's like, well, because someone directly asked them about it. But we always cut it out. It
should be like a courtroom. Objection, leading.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. I don't know what the objection would be for this guy other than, man, like, at least kind of be.
No, I know what it would be.
What?
It would be act like you've been there before.
Oh, my God.
It would be also, can I just say, it is very, it is a skill to do a press conference the same way that you play basketball. They were lobbing it up. He was like, I just answered one. They were doing bits. It was like the finger guns of press conferences.
If we can just play that again, I want you guys just the entire time, okay, to watch just Brunson here, okay? Because Brunson and Josh Hart are really clearly and obviously very good friends. Such good friends.
And Donte.
But Donte.
Why are you leaving him out?
I'll tell you why. I will tell you right now why. Because he's white. Because Donte.
You beat me to it.
Donte is sitting there next to Josh Hart, and he's amused by it. What Josh Hart is doing by saying they had to buy 2,000 tickets last time. It is just an exceptional troll deadpan. But Brunson's kind of tired of his friend's sense of humor. Has no reaction whatsoever to it.
How's it feel being back in Philly, taking this place over?
I just talked, bro. Okay. Man, it felt great. We knew this was going to be a tough environment. A little tougher than last game because there was 2,500 seats that were taken up, but we knew it was going to be a battle. We knew it was going to be a grind.
Not even listening. He's just looking at his own stat line. He's like, man, that looks good. That puts me top 5 Knicks ever right there. That game, look at that stat line. He's just staring at it like you would in a mirror if you were somebody who was impossibly beautiful and just liked to be nude in a mirror.
You ready?
Showtime. On May 3rd, summer starts with The Fall Guy.
Let's do it later.
Let's drink a spicy margarita.
Make some bad decisions.
Yes.
Audiences are falling in love with the most entertaining film of the year.
Fall Guy.
Fall Guy?
Fall Guy. That's what the poster said.
See Ryan Gosling and Emily Blunt in the movie critics say exists to make you happy.
Trying to make it out?
Nope.
Because I don't either. It's not what I'm into right now.
What are you into?
Talking.
Yeah.
The Fall Guy. Only in theaters May 3rd. Rated PG-13.
Don Batard.
Sub 500 seasons, it's been lonely. Now the best players on our side. Been losing and losing for much too long. But now we're back with New York pride.
Stugotz.
Jalen, you've got us on our feet, Jalen. We're gonna win the East, Jalen. Without Randall, we're still doing fine.
This is the Don Batard Show with the Stugotz.
This Knicks team right here is hard to crush. Like, I'm a Heat fan, so I don't like the Knicks, but I don't have a problem with this Knicks team. But Knicks fans are a bit much right now. Taylor out here, Jalen Brunson, number 2 all time behind you. It's like, relax.
So I'm married to a Knicks fan.
Where does he have Jalen all time?
You guys think that now's too much? Wait. You guys think now's too much?
This is still trodden ground. Like, if they get past the Pacers, then
I'm in Miami watching the game. I talked to my husband on the phone after the game, he was like pacing around the apartment by himself. Also, that game was really fun, and for now, while I can enjoy both the Knicks and the Celtics, I was like clapping in my hotel room. I was like, "Let's go, boy!" Like by myself, like a psychopath.
Wait a minute, who's that accent? Let me hear this. This is Charlotte as New Yorker.
No. This is Charlotte as New Yorker cheering on a children's Little League game as she's watching an NBA game. That's right. Here we go, boys. Not yours, kid.
But that sounds a little Boston. So this is.
I know. I'm confused.
Okay, so so you don't summon the New York accent very well, but you're just look. When Philadelphia was up 10 in the third quarter, they have to finish that game. You cannot allow the New York Knicks. You've got so much momentum. It was such a great game, but once you get up 10 in the third quarter, and I understand lead changes all the time in that sport, but I mean you have to bury that team in that situation. It's one of the reasons this Knicks fan base loves that team so much, is because in the face of that, they go and they end Embiid. But I want to circle back around to the Patrick Beverly stuff, because I'm not okay with Amin just saying, who cares, shut up. Plenty of people obviously care. Patrick Beverly is getting dragged today, and it's not just a basketball moment, and it's not just an asshole to reporters moment. It's because he did it to a woman. Like, it's getting more and more inflamed because he did it to a woman. And it's not who cares, shut up. People do care.
He hit somebody in the face with a basketball. Twice.
I thought we were going to get to that at some point.
He did it again.
We're going to do this, too. So let's just play the sound from Patrick Beverly first so that you can get uncomfortable, where he's just saying, if you want any of this sound of my pain, if you're going to profit off of my pain here, I want to profit in some way, too. Go download my podcast.
Here.
Excuse me, I'm sorry before I finish. You subscribe to my pod?
Do I subscribe to you? I do not subscribe.
So you can't interview me then.
Okay,
No disrespect.
Well, Jamal is here.
You subscribe? Okay, cool.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Again, there were a couple times within a bucket or two. In previous games, y'all have been able to kind of get over that hump, or maybe.
Got my face, please? Yeah,
Was it anything they did in particular, or was it just one of those where the bucket didn't go down? There wasn't the stop. They made one. What kind of prevented that you all from being able to get over, kind of like you have in the past?
You'll move that mic, please, or just get out the circle, please, for me, please, ma'am. If you're not subscribed to my pod, I appreciate it. Thank you.
he does not have the power to eject someone from media availability. PR does. If PR wants to say, ma'am, you need to leave, then that's one thing. He does not have the power. I wish he had just stood there. I wish someone would have said, hey, man, just shut up and answer the question. Like, one would hope that somebody in that room says, hey, man, just answer the question. Stop messing around.
That's the part that's really disappointing, is that no one stood up and said anything.
That's a tough spot for someone not involved there. Now you're going to insert yourself in this.
This is someone who you've worked with, or even if you haven't worked with her, this is your job as well. And he's out here literally pushing her microphone away from the scrum. It's one thing to say, I won't answer your question disrespectfully off the bat. It's another thing to then say, you can't even keep your microphone here to do your job. And the fact that none of the other journalists in the room said anything is frustrating. But the bigger issue is that Pat Beverly is doing that himself. Like, the fact that he's out here pushing a microphone away is just wholly disrespectful to the people doing their job.
My thing is this. It's like, he can do that. Somebody needs to say, nah.
Yeah.
Like, somebody needs to stand up and say, nah, man, just go ahead and do your thing.
This is wild that we're putting this on the journalists.
No,
this is just all Pat Bev
of
for me.
course.
I'm not in locker rooms a lot, but
skipping past that.
No, but
wait.
allyship requires leadership, and this locker room is still not a place for women. Just so that you understand. I'm not talking, just the locker room in general can make it very uncomfortable and not equal for women. But just put up still real quick there. Patrick Beverly, both his stat line and his behavior, it's right on his Scully. It's right there. He's telling you.
Ass.
Yeah. Just ass. The behavior, because he also was throwing basketballs at people in frustration. Can we get to that video? I'll get back to what it is you guys are talking about, but let's have the full context of what we're talking about here. He is somebody who has gotten famous, at least in part, because do you know how many people there are in the NBA who average 9 points a season for their career? Or whatever it is that Patrick Beverly averages. He's famous and known for being this thing that is a little crazy and a lot of irritant and yappy, perpetually yappy. And so you see him there just throwing a basketball at people and his teammates. He's hot because he's embarrassed and they're losing and he's out in the first round.
This is what I'm going to say. I don't know what the context is. I don't know. When we talk about what's happening, interacting with fans is always weird because, how dare you? And it turns out
he says he was trying to get rid of those people all game with security and that they wouldn't take them out.
I don't know what they said or did, so I am not going to overreact, although I would say yes. Throwing the ball, even whatever they said, throwing the ball, bad idea. What I am going to say is I know what the context is in the postgame scrum. That journalist did nothing wrong. I believe she's a producer for ESPN. She did nothing wrong. His whole thing was just, this is his own stupid-ass way to promote his stupid-ass podcast, right? And in that moment where he says, I'm not going to answer, that's not the first time. We've seen lots of times athletes say specifically, I'm not going to answer a question from Dan Batard because you wrote this, da-da-da. I'm not going to answer you. But to say, you're not allowed to stand here, you're not allowed, get out of here, that's where I think there's a line crossed.
He's also done this to other reporters in Milwaukee this season. I think he got
ejected
there. No. Said, I won't talk to you if you don't subscribe to my podcast. I also think that at some point you got to do a calculus of if you're the PR person at Milwaukee or if you're another journalist at Milwaukee, it's we're probably going to be here longer than Pat Bev. So let's.
But to me, that's more of a reason.
That's what I mean. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I'm saying because he's probably going to be gone. It's let's stand up for the people that we're going to. From a very cynical point of view.
And if he had a 10-year deal, who the cares? I didn't get the Patrick Beverly quote.
Who the cares?
To that point, though, too, the matrix of headache versus value as a player, Pat Bev is kind of already on the headache side of the spectrum, right? There's nobody who's going to be oh, you know what? We need Patrick Beverly's services next year.
Well, Milwaukee said it this year, so.
In these locker rooms, though, it has become a much more equitable place. It's not just about.
Well, let me go back for a second here. Roy's been trying to get in here. Let me go back here for a second. What I would say, because I may have been misunderstood here on what it is that I was saying earlier before. I don't believe that the locker room is still as safe for women as it is for men. Everyone's trying, but you're occasionally going to have the man in a locker room who's not okay with women in the locker room. So that's what I meant. I said it differently than that. I'm not saying it's not an equitable place. It's not the place it was when I was growing up in locker rooms, but there are plenty of men athletes still in locker rooms who are not welcoming women there. It is not as friendly to women as it is to men by consensus. Some people are just sort of tolerating it or pretending.
So he tells her to go away. What if she says no, and then he ends
the post-game scrum. He just gets up and goes away. What happens then? He gets fined? Does he get fined?
He doesn't get fined because he was available. He answered questions, and then at some point he says, "Questions over." That counts for he was available.
I would also argue you could say that a lot of places are still better for men than women, like a Subway. You know, like I don't know that that's a locker room thing.
No,
Feels sort of like
I would assume
life thing.
I'm gonna say I may have this wrong. This part I may have wrong. I would say that generally, in my experience, it doesn't mean that I have accurate information at this minute, but the people in locker rooms who are dedicated to the obsessive-compulsive craft of getting better at what it is that they do to the detriment of other things can be less evolved than the average workplace.
I'm not arguing with you about the locker room thing. I'm just saying I'm yes-anding.
Yes.
Yeah, and they don't want any of us there, by the way. Like they don't want me there, they don't want you there, they don't want any of us in that locker room.
True. And that's kind of why I'm more inclined to criticize the behavior than to read into it. Like, it's because she's a woman. Maybe it is because she's a woman. Maybe it's not. I don't know. But what I do know is he does not have the power to eject a journalist who's not doing anything out of the ordinary
But he does have the power, though, in front of his locker room to control what he is saying and to whom. And so if he doesn't do it that way, a way he can do it without creating the stir that would then bring publicity to his podcast is by simply by punishing her, by telling everyone, interview's over, I am no longer available. I've answered a couple of questions, I've fulfilled my contractual partnership agreement, and now I'm getting out of this.
And everyone's like, oh man, we really wanted to hear what Patrick Beverly had to say.
Hey, what happened?
Hey,
what happened? You threw that ball at a fan
You know what?
twice.
I'm going to go subscribe to Patrick Beverly's podcast.
Maybe he'll explain it there.
That's so sorry. Telling people to subscribe to your podcast is lame. But please subscribe to Oddball. It is on. It's also a show. You can watch it on YouTube every day but Monday.
It's funny,
but it is lame to tell people to subscribe to your podcast.
I don't do that other than the contractually obligated spaces where I do this here, right? Or at the end of our show or whatever. But like when I'm out and about in public, and Lord knows I have no shortage of podcasts, right? I've never in my life said, "Oh, you podcast?" Yeah, I do podcasts. Oh, well, there's one about movies that are poorly rated on Rotten Tomatoes.
Greg Cody did this on Tuesday.
He did the exact same thing.
Like walking out,
dude. He had a bruised face. He's like, "I'm not talking about this. If you want to hear what happened, go to my podcast."
But that's different. That's him creating actual content on his own time. I'm talking about walking down the street. Amin, I love you. Hey, how's it going? Do you have a podcast? I do. It's called Cinephobe. Wow. Hey, you should subscribe and like and rate and review, please. And also catch us on YouTube. We post who does that?
Well,
who does that?
I would say someone who's got a more successful podcast than you do.
I don't think
Patrick
so.
Beverly.
I don't think so.
You know what I say?
It's no knock on your podcast. Patrick Beverly has made himself. Guys, okay, listen. I don't want to be the one defending Patrick Beverly today. Patrick Beverly has turned himself into a voice and name in that league that has no...
Has he?
Amin, Patrick Beverly has a platform. Who else in that position has a platform when he's not that good?
Theo Pinson.
He's not that relevant. And
Theo Pinson.
Are you unfamiliar with how popular this podcast is?
Are you familiar with how popular Theo Pinson is? This guy, he is America's favorite teammate.
You know what I say when people are like, hey, which doesn't happen that often, but if they're like, I follow you on Twitter, anyway, I'm like, sorry. I'm sorry for everything.
You apologize.
Yeah, they're like, I follow you on Twitter. I'm like, really?
That's humility, people.
Sorry.
Right there. Like someone says, I'm a fan of your work, and you apologize.
And you say, I'm sorry for the content.
Lucy, it's been a long time since we've talked to you. You've been gone for 3 weeks. I haven't seen you. Do you have any thoughts here on everything it is that we are chewing on?
No, I think, what more can I say? Charlotte said it perfectly. I don't care what he has to say. I'm not going to search out his podcast. He seems like a not nice guy, and he's always been a not nice guy. I don't care for him, and I hope he has the day he deserves.
Oh,
wow. Lucy. You know what I do hope? I hope he sees this and tweets it for engagement.
That'd be cool.
I hope he has the day he deserves.
That's how I get people when they're really mean to me. I'm not like, go F yourself. I'm like, I hope you have the day you deserve.
It's a great kind insult. Yes.
It's beautiful.
It's leaving it to the cosmos to sort it out.
That's a less Southern bless your heart.
Oh, I can't say bless your heart. That's too hurtful. It gives me PTSD.
It's a great insult that feels like it could be a compliment.
Feels biblical. I hope you have the day you deserve.
You have to sit and think about it.
And what do you imagine he deserves? What would that day look like? Like food poisoning?
A bad one.
Don Batard.
It's a 3. The crowd goes into a delusion. Winning in the playoffs, not an illusion. It's a heat check, he's on fire.
Stugotz.
Carry us, Jalen Brunson. Comes up clutch, that's why we won. New York knows you are the best. Not the joke no more.
This is the Don Batard Show with the Stugotz.
Put it on the poll, please, Juju, at Lebitard Show. Is Roy rooting for Game 7 between the Bruins and Maple Leafs to go 40 overtimes?
Goddamn right I am.
Charlotte, I want to ask you something in terms of working with Amin, and if this is a frustration for you on Oddball that it is for me here when he joins us. Every day, except for Monday on Oddball, Amin and Charlotte are breaking down basketball in a clever and creative way, different than anyone else who is covering basketball. Lucy, why are you laughing?
Why did she say yes like that?
Yes. Charlotte, I would like to ask you a question. Yes.
Charlotte, I don't know. The voices she makes, I don't know. I'd like, actually, honestly, I would like her to remember the last 3 or 4 minutes of this segment. I would like for her to get up. I think she's going to forget. We'll see. I would like for her to get up and spend the last 3 or 4 minutes of this segment just wandering behind us, being the Little League advocate in the New York Boston accent that she was last night, celebrating and trying to get her husband to have joy as a Knicks fan because of how much she wanted the Knicks to win last night on behalf of love, not love of the Knicks, love of her husband.
Well, I never finished telling you what happened after that. So we're on FaceTime, and I was like, I'm so happy for you. He was like, Knicks Celtics Eastern Conference Finals, and I was like, oh, and we were like, God, this is gonna be. I was like, are we gonna have to go into counseling? What are we gonna have to do? And he was like, well, I mean, we live in New York. And I was like, I'm sorry, what? And he was like, well, I'm just saying as a tiebreaker, like we live in. And I was like, are you trying to get me to root for the Knicks? He was like, no. You have your team. You love your team. And I was like, wait, so you're telling me that you're trying to get me to root for the Knicks, and then telling me I can't root for the Knicks while trying to get me to root for the Knicks? This is collision. Knicks Celtics marriage collision course, Dano.
Well put. Confidently and well put. Say it with your chest. I want to ask you the question about Amin, though, if you have this frustration. When we turn the microphones off, he then made a number of very great and passionate points that were useless to me as an on-air vehicle because he was doing a better show off the air than he was doing on the air because he was just railing about why no one stood up for forgive me, I don't. Andrews is her name, but it's not Malika, right? I don't know who the reporter was. I don't know her name, but Amin was yelling and screaming during the break in a way that would have been useful on air.
No, he does that on our show on air usually.
Yeah, it's amazing what happens when you don't get interrupted 3 seconds into your statement.
Well, go ahead and finish your point that you could have made in the first 24 minutes, but somehow needed the extra 2 minutes of the commercial break to fill my ears with.
I just needed you to not interrupt me when I was making the point.
And so go ahead and.
So my point was it's irrelevant that she's a woman, although obviously that dynamic always plays in, right? It plays regardless of whether it is outward or under a subtext. It's irrelevant that her question was not answered. Patrick Beverly's free to say, I don't want to answer that question. I don't want to address you. I won't even look at you. What he does not have the power to do is eject someone from that space. And that's why I said, because during the break, Jeremy said, someone should have been like, hey, you know what? Let me hold your mic and I'll ask the question and you'll get your answer. And I said, no. We don't have to do this in a kind of passive-aggressive way. what Patrick Beverly is actually searching for in that moment is friction. To someone say, hey, man, just shut up and answer the question. Mm-hmm. Because at the end of the day, all he's doing is promoting his podcast. As others have pointed out, he's done this all season long to local reporters. If you don't subscribe to my podcast, I will not answer your question. And that's fine. That's his prerogative. What he does not have is the power to eject someone who hasn't done anything wrong. And if I'm ESPN, I'm having a very strong conversation with not only Director of Communications for the Milwaukee Bucks, but also at the league office, that we are a rights holder, our reporter did nothing wrong, and this guy ejected her from the scrum? Who is he? Why does he have... LeBron doesn't have that power. Patrick Beverly has that power? Come on, man. What are we doing? The idea that everyone stood there, whether you're a PR person working, whether you're another reporter, whether you're a camera, nobody said, don't be a jackass, just answer the question.
So what is the league going to do in that situation if ESPN complains to the league office?
No, they fine him.
Isn't Barkley calling for a fine and a suspension? Didn't Barkley do that last night?
He's not going to get suspended because the Players Association is going to point to precedent and say, like, there's no precedent for that, like that you get suspended for being rude without being vulgar or anything like that.
Also, they're eliminated.
Well, and the throwing of the ball. It'll go into next season.
That part is different.
I was just going to say, you know what else LeBron has? A podcast.
Oh, yeah, that's right. And it's good.
Forgive me. It is very good.
And you know what he doesn't do? In casual conversation, tell people to subscribe.
Can I say one critique of the podcast?
Which one?
Mind the Game, the new one with JJ. I love it. Fascinating. Mind Games was right there.
Yep. You know whose fault that is?
No.
It's Jason Gallagher.
Jason
Gallagher,
dude.
the man behind the scenes on that. And we're going inside baseball right now.
Love Jason.
Where's my
Love
camera?
the podcast. Everybody.
Jason Gallagher, this is all your fault.
You know what? If you don't subscribe to Mind the Game, I'm not going to talk to you.
Exactly.
Melinda Adams is the name of the reporter. I meant no disrespect by not knowing her name. I want to, and Charles Barkley was calling for a suspension for the thrown basketball. Charles made me laugh last night with a bit of, I mean, he does a lot, but this was, I don't think he intended to make me laugh this way, but he made me laugh because of the symbolism and the humor in this. Charles Barkley, expert NBA analyst who had just been paid to sit there with his friends and watch basketball games, saw the basketball game that we all saw, and yet had an incredulous comment that was genuinely confused when he said, Tobias Harris didn't score tonight? Like he didn't. He watched the game with us. None of us noticed that Tobias Harris wasn't out there the entirety of the game because he played 30 minutes, and he scored not at all while making $40 million a year, and has made, I think, has he made $250 million in this league? And none of the pressure falls on him. They lost by a basket last night. The guy who's making $40 million, none of the pressure falls on him, as Barkley says out loud, and he wasn't making a joke. He was like, Tobias didn't score last night? I didn't realize this until just now.
Tobias Harris is their Stugotz.
Whoa.
I mean, Stugotz is important to the success of everything that we're doing. They just needed a basket from Tobias last night.
We wanted him on the show today.
Don't give up hope.
$212 million earned in the career of Tobias Harris.
I see 248.
248?
248, yeah.
It's a lot of... Oh, wait.
That's insane.
Is it Spotrac or Spotrac?
I've always said Spotrac. I'm a Heat fan.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
Oh.
The Heat fan thing and also Spotrac.
Yeah.
Good commentary.
It's a fart noise.
I thank you. Thank you. I did.
It's not raspberry.
Thank you. I was not aware. I was not aware of what you were doing.
That's a fart noise, Dan.
Thank you. That's Stugotz. That's what we need from that chair right there.
$250 million. This is insane. Is he the most overpaid player in NBA history?
Remember when he had that cute little bromance with Boban, though? That was worth at least $100 million.
He's never made an All-Star.
He is not.
You guys know what's going to happen,
This
right?
is insane.
Wait, you guys know what's going to happen to Tobias Harris, who's going to be a free agent.
He's going to make more.
He's going to
sign with the Heat.
He's going to sign somewhere for minimum, maybe the Heat, and he's going to play so well, and everyone's going to be like, "Oh my God, they did it again!" and like this whole thing, because this is how we're conditioned to do this sport now because everyone's got access to salaries and all that. People value players by how much they make as opposed to what they did. Now, he didn't score last night, so he had a pretty bad game. But the point
Can you guys give me the whole box score for Tobias Harris? Because I didn't notice him or think about him in any way last night.
He missed a big shot.
Missed a shot from the corner.
Yeah,
short
in the fourth quarter. Yeah.
They just needed a basket.
That was
from
it
him
right there.
last night.
0 for 2 from the field in 29 minutes, 4 rebounds, 3 assists.
2 shots
no
more than I had
fouls,
from my couch,
no
Dan.
turnovers.
He didn't. Well, at least he didn't foul or turn her over, so that's a positive, right?
Yeah, there you go.
Zero impact.
I'm telling you, he's going to be somewhere next year, and he's going to be cheap, and he's going to get buckets, and everyone's going to be like, "Wow, what a great signing!"
You know what I just thought of?
Otto Porter.
No.
Okay.
Now I can't remember what I thought. Oh, you know who I hope. No, hear me out.
Let my girl cook.
Thank you, Chris. Do you know? I wonder how Ryan Arcidiacono feels today.
Dude, I thought the same thing watching that press conference.
So here's the thing.
They've
So
got
for those
their
who
own.
don't
They've
know,
got their own love language. Oddball, Otto Porter, and this is where you can get your exclusive Oddball information Tuesday through Friday on Oddball, wherever you get your podcast.
Yeah. Oddball rocks. Listen to it, watch it. Here's the thing. Ryan Arcidiacono was one of my favorite players before the Knicks traded him because he went to college also with Jalen Brunson, Donte DiVincenzo, Josh Hart. He was about to set a record, if he didn't set a record, for minutes played without points scored. Mm-hmm. He was that first guy off the bench, every timeout, everything. He was up there. He was doing the little league clapping. That's probably why I like him so much. And then they traded him. They got rid of him. They shipped him off to Detroit.
Of all places.
And the Nets, they could have signed him back so that he could at least be with Mikal Bridges, another Villanova teammate, but they didn't. Everybody hung him out to dry. He had the best life. He got to sit on the bench at Madison Square Garden with those guys, and now
with his best friends.
And they make it to the second round. I just hope Ryan's okay. Shout out Ryan Arcidiacono. We're thinking of you. We love you, buddy.
I watched that press conference, and I thought to myself, Ryan Arcidiacono's at home right now. Like,
I would have cried.
With like this.
Yes.
Like, guys, I miss you. The Mike and Ikes. Remember? When
my God.
Still sucks.
I'm the one that introduced him to Mike and Ikes.
Go sit again in the penalty box.
Oh, my God.
This anti-Knicks agenda has been insane. Dan, Jalen Brunson had 40 points last night. They overcame a double-digit deficit.
You don't. We're going to talk about the Knicks right now. You're going to leave, though, because I've told you to stop slandering Mike and Ikes. Chris Cody, Taylor's in the other room.
Taylor's
here.
like, I want to shake your hand.
Okay.